first time I played Half-Life back when I was a kid, I always used to think, can I save these scientists, the guards? And I bet that's something a lot of you thought too. Cause face it, in the midst of a experiment gone terribly wrong, it was natural to think that we should be able to save these friendly faces we meet along in our journey. But unfortunately, the game wasn't designed like that. At one point, you would have to leave behind your allies or worse, see them die. Cause they were always scripted to die. And that is where this mod comes in. Half-Life Lemmings, or its alternate title, Half-Life but you can save every scientist. And it is exactly what it says on the tin. It's Half-Life but you can literally save all the people, or at least most of the people you meet along the journey, and even revive some of them who you thought were already dead. Now, I gotta say, this is such a simple idea, but the execution quite literally changes how you view and play the game. There are a few shortcomings, which I'll go into, but overall, I think this drastically changes the gameplay and the feel of the game in a way I didn't even think was possible. The current release of the mod lets you play till the chapter Apprehension, which is quite a lot of content, and I'll try to cover the mod up till that point. Starting off with unforeseen consequences, we immediately meet a scientist trying to save a guard right outside the test chamber, and after waiting for a few seconds, this happens.
Hello. Lead the way.
Would you look at that? Now, you'd think these NPCs would get stuck at the sight of an object or an obstacle, but nope, the mod makes it so that they are able to do basic maneuvering. Sorry if I sound too excited about this, but this is so cool. It makes the NPCs feel much more alive, and it adds a layer of depth to the game. Now you don't have to look after yourself, but your allies as well. One thing I thought was kind of irritating was that sometimes the NPCs would get reset, like they would stop following you after doing an action like climbing up a ladder or jumping over a gap or just walking into a new room. But it doesn't matter much, cause if you leave them behind, they will automatically move to you once you reach like a sort of a checkpoint. So it's all good in the end. So now we have 3 guards and a scientist following us. Note that the scientist has this cross on his arm, which means only he has the ability to revive some of the fallen NPCs we'll see later on. Remember this dude who falls to his death? Well, we can save him now. And so our herd grows. Honestly, this feels like Gordon is a school teacher and he's trying to keep all of his school trip children alive in a very dangerous environment. It's so cute and sometimes also quite hilarious. One of my favorite moments was when this security guard managed to open this locked door and then the medic scientist revived the scientist with the head crab on the head. It's so good. We also get to save this dude as well. At first I thought it wasn't possible, but then I realized I was blocking the medic's spot for him to initiate the animation, and so our school trip group grows larger. Having half a dozen guards with you does mean you get the extra firepower, so most enemies are just one-shots for the most part. Then there are some parts like this where you can't really bring everyone with you, but can... Oh shit. 1 second. You can't really bring everyone with you to every location, but rather save a scientist or 2 from a new spot and bring them back to the group. Sometimes the NPCs can block your way, but it's pretty easy to just crouch jump over them. Then there's stragglers. Sometimes you'll notice a few of the NPCs just stay back even when you pressed E on them to follow you. This necessarily isn't a mod issue, but generally how things work in the source engine, or how Half-Life Source works. Yeah, I forgot to mention, but it should be obvious that this is a Half-Life Source mod. Lemmings basically uses Half-Life Source Fixed as a base mod and then builds on top of it. But even then, the bugginess of the source port causes some issue with the NPC behavior. It happens rarely, but it does happen.
Oh my. For a second I thought you were one of them. It's good to see another living human being.
Lead the way. Let's go.
Another neat thing the NPCs do is that they can pick up weapons now. Like scientists and guards can go pick up pistols and shotguns and MP5s, and that's pretty cool. Sometimes it gets a little difficult to position them in the right place though, then things like this happen. Now, if you don't know why this mod is also called Lemmings, it's because it's a reference to an old game called the same, in that you would control little lemmings and give them commands to do things, but here it's used as a reference to when all of the NPCs do the same action together back to back and, they're acting like those lemmings. This mod really breathes life into the world of Half-Life. Out of nowhere, now we have a little bit of more interactivity with our colleagues, and there's an extra sense of danger as well, cause by God, I can't risk losing one of these precious people to monstrous aliens. Here, unfortunately, no matter what you do, 2 or 3 NPCs will always get stuck. Like, they just freeze in position and there's nothing you can do about it except move on. Farewell, my autistic children. This is the last spot in this chapter where all of the people you saved line up, so you get them to follow you, and then you head to the exit. This scoreboard at the end of each chapter is also neat. It tallies up all the NPCs you saved. Office Complex. Here it introduces a mechanic where you can call the scientist or the guards to your location by hitting a button, similar to Half-Life 2. There's 2 things about this. I would suggest to have this introduced right after you meet the first scientist and guard in Unforeseen Consequences. And secondly, there should be a way to have everyone just follow you actively rather than them running to your location where you press the button. But I don't know if it's possible at all, but it would be pretty neat to have it. Office Complex is pretty standard with the NPCs, but there's this cool scene here.
No! Please! No! 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 Get it off me! Get it out! Get it out!
Freeman, who would have thought you'd still be alive?
At this point, the school trip group was just getting bigger and bigger, and we have to leave them behind when we reach the freezer section. Looping back around, we gather even more NPCs like Pokemon and link up with our original horde of scientists and guards. Way too many of these, I swear, it gets wild. Near the end of the chapter, where we see G-Man, there's a neat little Easter egg here.
¡Eh! ¡Aquí!
Cleverly done, Mr. Freeman, but you're not supposed to be here. As a matter of fact, you're not. Get back where you belong and forget about all this. Until we meet again.
Goddamn, that was awesome. This part here is where we usually see a scientist fall to his death. Now we can actually save him. And now, this bit was funny to me. The NPCs slowly coming up and then listen to the sound they make when they jump for the ladder. I don't know why, but it always makes me laugh. Oh boy, it sure is cramped in here. Let me just press the button. Let me press the fucking button, goddamn. Now in We've Got Hostiles, we all remember the classic scientist who gets blown up. So I tried to clear everything in front of him and yeah, it's all good. This is where I made a fatal mistake though. I thought, since we loop around anyway and head through this gate, I thought I would just leave behind my horde and do all the things and come back and go through the big gate. Turns out, that's not what you're supposed to do, because when you do loop around, they're all gone. Except for this one scientist in the control room. You finish the level with that one NPC and that sucks ass. I did keep on playing, but I realized that I just lost all those NPCs back there and it made me feel like crap. So I restarted the whole game, gathered them again, and finally took them with me through the whole chapter of We've Got Hostiles. In this part, it was extra tense cause there's so many traps and ambushes by the aliens, plus the HECU shows up as well. The difficulty dial sure did go up by a lot. Plus the pathfinding for the NPCs becomes a little bit wonky here. They won't follow you over certain obstacles, so instead you just have to move on and they'll follow you automatically somehow. Oh boy, this lift. It took me way longer than it should have to actually fit in all the scientists and guards in this small ass lift, cause look at this, man, what do? It was simultaneously making me laugh but also irritating the hell out of me. I finally did manage to fit all of them in, but I had to no-clip myself to the level above. Of course I lost a scientist here, but that's alright, I've got plenty. This poor sucker got glitched into the wall, so I had to abandon him as well. It was tense trying to take down the HECU before they could kill my NPCs. This resulted in some pretty aggressive gameplay from my part, but thankfully, the doctors heal you up. And oh boy, another lift. I again spent way longer than I should have and finally got them all in. Well, most of them in. Thing is, this outside area, this is actually an extraction zone, meaning once we clear it out, the NPCs that are following us can actually escape Black Mesa permanently. I took out the initial squad of the HECU soldiers, then the ones that land later, then I got shelled. But what you're supposed to do is that you shoot these barrels and that makes the tower fall over the electrified wires. This lets the NPCs cross over and run away. Run, my children. Be free. And don't look back. Going back in, we meet the scientist in the control room again, and now we're going to rebuild our family from this one scientist. Blast pit. Oddly enough, quite a lot of enemies were missing in this chapter. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it made it feel quite ominous in some ways. And before you ask, no, the scientist doesn't get on the tram here. He just runs along the path to reach the pool of radiation at the end. It's a pretty much straightforward trek here. Many of the enemies are missing, and there wasn't a whole lot to do. Here we save the scientist who used to get killed by the tentacles. Then we have these two here and the two guards, and all four of them will stay here until we kill the big tentacle monster. I remember that earlier leaving behind NPCs made them disappear, so I was kind of afraid to leave them here. But then I had a gut feeling that I am supposed to leave them here. And it was obvious when one of the scientists just straight up said exactly that he'll follow me after the alien is dead. And that's another thing to note. There's a few new lines in this for the NPCs, and sometimes they make quips about each other too. Anyway, this was pretty much standard blast pit. This happened for some reason. Hilarious. And again, a lot of the enemies, like the zombies and headcrabs, were missing from these rooms. But apart from that, I saved this scientist somehow. I legit thought he was going to die by that fast-moving platform, but nope, he actually made it, luckily. This dude always got zapped in this section, and it oddly made me feel happy that he gets to live. Now we take both of these scientists back up top, fry the tentacle, and move on.
You're going to have to leave me, Gordon. Are you insane? Oh my. Absolutely not.
I wonder if those boys could have made a bigger mess.
This is hilarious. I love this. After a long trek, we finally made it to power up. There were some hiccups with the pathfinding again along the way, but thankfully, they all made it safe and sound. Power up is pretty much power up, because if you remember, there isn't any scientist or guard in the whole chapter, except for this one. And, I made a mistake. Or maybe I didn't. You see, when I killed the big dude and finished the chapter, it said that I missed one guard. Oh, this one? But I didn't have a medic with me. How was I supposed to save him? Thing is, I just failed to save him, and I have shamed my gamer skills. I will resign shortly. Anyway, at the end of Power Up, rather than a small ass tram, we get this long ass train instead, with all of the NPCs in it. This is so awesome. But also, this is where I have to share some bad news. The train just stopped working. And given how much pain in the neck the source engine was for me, with the pathfinding problems and all that, I was just exhausted to go back and do it all again. So, I give up. On a Rail and Apprehension is something you'll have to check out on your own. Overall, I think this is a very well executed mod. It takes a simple idea that the player can save friendly NPCs around them and lead them to safety. But of course, there's some engine glitches in the way, mainly the NPCs freaking out trying to find a path to you or just straight up freezing or bugging out. But seeing that this is the initial release, I hope to see some great updates on this. Maybe we'll get to see the later chapters like Service Tension or Lambda Core, and we'll see how the formula works there. Definitely check this one out if you're interested. Link's gonna be in the description. Thanks for watching, and a big thanks and shout out goes to these beautiful benefactors. I'll see you in the next one.